the reality of it. Where you get the truth, where you get the real, where you get to see all the things that's going on all around you. That's the reality of it. Where you get the truth, where you get the real, where you get to see all the things that's going on all around you. And we tell it like it is.
Welcome back to That's the Reality of It. I'm William.
And I'm Aisha.
We have a great show for you today, so don't go anywhere.
You can look eye to eye at anyone when you're wearing the exquisite couture frames from Eye to Eye. Their beautiful exclusive eyewear is imported from all over the world, including London, Tokyo, Milan, and Paris. You will not see these frames anywhere else. The specialists at Eye to Eye have the finest frames, great personalized service, and they do all the customizing in their in-house lab. So call or come in and get the most fashionable and unique eyewear only at Eye to Eye.
At Liberty Animal Clinic, they know that your pet is a member of the family and you want to make sure they are healthy and receive excellent care. Their top veterinarians and staff will treat them like family and give the best care, medical treatment, and attention you can get anywhere. Liberty Animal Clinic provides these excellent services and they are open 6 days a week, including giving them a complete physical, and office hours are by appointment, so please call. Let your extended family
Join our family!
Welcome back to That's the Reality of It. Again, with me is my guest, Dr. Duncan Simon, cardiologist, and we're going to get into some of the issues of how to prevent having issues with your heart. Last week, the last show, we talked about the different ways you can detect heart problems, diseases, and that sort of thing. But let's get into maybe a preventive aspect of not having a heart issue.
Sure. There are certain things, of course, that everybody knows we shouldn't be doing, things like smoking. Mm-hmm. And if you do smoke, it's important to stop. The sooner the better, mm-hmm. but your life will be much better without smoking. High blood pressure is a risk factor for heart disease, and so it's important for people to know their blood pressure and to pay attention to that. Mm-hmm. We now have even stricter guidelines for how low the blood pressure should be, and we have a lot of medications that work very well to control the blood pressure. If you have diabetes, obviously that increases your risk of heart disease. So we want to make sure if you are diabetic that you take extra good care of yourself.
Cholesterol will be an issue?
The cholesterol is a complicated issue because it's cholesterol that gets into the arteries and clogs them up. But we all have cholesterol and we all need cholesterol. And we all probably have more cholesterol than we should in this modern world. So most people who have heart attacks have normal cholesterols, but it's important to know what your cholesterol is. If it is elevated, you want to change your diet or possibly even take one of these statin drugs that can lower your cholesterol. Now, watching your weight is important and keeping active is important. Those things will help to stave off heart disease. What we eat is important, but we don't exactly know what we should be eating. We've gotten sort of different ideas over the years. We now feel that probably the best diet is a vegetarian kind of diet with not a lot of meat, smaller amounts of fish or meat, and more brightly colored vegetables, more fruits, and not as much sugar, because there's a lot of sugar out there in this world. Sodas and ice creams and cakes, a lot of sugar, and we should limit that as much as we can.
Why would you limit the sugar? Is it issue with the cholesterol or something, or the diet?
Sugar does push the cholesterol up. Sugar, of course, makes us heavier and increases the risk of diabetes. And sugar, we think, may have a role in the creation of atherosclerosis. It may actually accelerate it. The growth of cholesterol plaque in our arteries.
Oh, okay. Now, I've heard that people could exercise, be athletic, and eat right, and still have a heart attack.
Unfortunately, that's true. There are people who do everything right, and they have heart disease or a heart attack, sometimes at a young age. Sometimes that's the genes playing a role, the genetics that you inherit. And you may have a bad gene from your mother and a bad gene from your father that just play together. But unfortunately, that can happen. And so it's important also to pay attention to symptoms. If you have any heaviness, discomfort, pressure, burning pain, something that's unusual, especially if it comes on when you're active, to let your doctor know.
Is ethnicity have any factors in who has more prevalent to heart attacks or heart issues than another race?
Not really. We do know that African Americans here in America have more hypertension, and hypertension and diabetes take more of a toll on African Americans, and those are risk factors for heart disease. But there's a lot of heart disease in all of the populations in this country, so it's a sort of equal opportunity
disease.
Yeah.
What about stress? Is stress a major factor in people having?
Stress is not good for us. Stress pushes up the blood pressure, and stress does have a role in atherosclerosis. And the way I like to look at it is there's good stress and bad stress. The good stress, where you're building something that's positive, that's okay. But the bad stress is not such a good thing for us.
So eat right. Watch out for what you eat. Protein is important, so you have to eat some meat, I would guess.
Some protein, yes.
What about supplements?
No, there are supplements that we recommend, but not for the heart.
Okay.
No.
So, I guess hopefully we've answered all your questions. If you have any more questions or something that we haven't touched on, one more thing. Why do they pay more attention to the men rather than the women?
They used to.
Okay.
But about 10 years ago, the information came out that women are actually dying of heart disease at about the same rate as men, but they tend to be older because they're protected during their years of childbearing. So when the menopause hits, women's risk goes up. And so a woman has just as much of a risk in her life of having a heart attack as a man. And we now understand that women don't always feel their pain the way men do.
Right.
Maybe they're stronger. But we have learned now to pay much more attention to women. And so hopefully cardiologists around the country are doing just that.
And when you say they're protected earlier, what do you mean by protected?
Well, the female hormones, estrogen and progesterone, do seem to protect against atherosclerosis.
Got you. All right, now women, they're going to pay more attention to you. So stop complaining when you go there. If they don't pay attention to you, you say, look, I have just as much of a risk factor as a man, and you better pay attention to me, right? So, Doctor, I appreciate you again for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
And if you have any other questions and that we haven't addressed, give him a call. We're going to have the number on the screen, and he'll be glad to talk with you. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
So I switched my car insurance to State Farm. I saved $480. You know what that is?
Yeah, don't say it.
You know what it is, right?
Yeah, don't.
It's a lot of dough.
Switch and you could save $480 with State Farm.
It's a lot of dough.
See if Bryant Jenkins in Reisterstown can save you a lot of dough.
Get to a better state. State Farm.
Okay, it's time to look your best, and trust me, the place to make sure of that is Down to Earth Hair Salon in Owens Mills. There are top hairstylists and barber professionals that will give you that look that you can't seem to get anywhere else. Plus, they also offer these excellent services: waxing, keratin treatments, natural hair care, color services, weaves, treatments, and they promote healthy hair care. Down to Earth Salon is also looking for exceptional braiders and stylists. They have convenient parking, and new customers get 10% off their visit. Call for appointment.
Hello and welcome to Let's Talk with Maisha. Today I have the honor and privilege of sitting beside Mr. Van Brooks himself. Many of you may know him when we talk about resilience, courage, and just determination. This gentleman right here is the epitome of all of that. So can you tell us a little bit about who you are?
Absolutely.
And
So
what you
first,
do?
thanks for having me here today. I really appreciate it. Again, I'm Van Brooks. So what do I do? I'm born and raised in this community. My family's from Sandtown, Winchester, and it's my father's side, my mother's side from Holland Park. A lot of my family went to school right here at Holland Park, so these have been my stomping grounds growing up. What do I do? One, community activist.
Yes.
Business owner.
Yes.
Nonprofit philanthropy person.
Founder, yes.
Yes. Mentor, and a workaholic.
Humanitarian.
You know more about
You changed
me.
a lot of lives. How many? So you have Safe. You're the founder of Safe House.
Safe Center.
Safe Center.
Yes.
And you have taken. What was the mission of Safe Center?
So the mission, tracking back, growing up in the community, as I mentioned, my family's from this area. We had a ton of free activities growing up.
Yes.
And over the years, I started to realize that they were closing. Fortunately for me, I went to private school, and the things that they offered at the school that I was at, I really didn't have to rely on after-school programming any longer in the city. But I noticed that my siblings and my friends didn't have anything to do. So as I went through the whole process of my, recovering from my injury, how do I pay back the people who supported me? And it was to give back to my community. So when I started, thinking and visualizing what I wanted to do with the nonprofit Safe Alternative Families for Education, opening the youth center came up.
Okay.
And that's how the vision for the Safe Center came about. And I really just wanted to focus on education, bringing a private school education after school to the city.
Wow.
And serving the kids in my community.
Where did you find the kids? Did you just say, "Hey, come in, I got something for you"? How did you get? Because you have about 15 kids,
Yes.
right? Okay.
So a couple things. One, I know everybody in the community, so I
Yeah.
was able to talk to older siblings or parents. And then another one, I ran a football program. Kids love sports. So when I ran that program, we had a ton of kids that wanted to sign up. And that was just the introduction. That was just us saying, hey, this is what we're about. This is what we're going to be doing. And then, of course, I had to work the education piece into it. Okay. The whole trick basically was attracting the kids with sports and then giving them something to look forward to while squeezing in their education.
And this is how many years?
So the Safe Center has been open for 3 years now.
Wow!
3 years now, yes.
You're just a brand new baby.
I am.
Oh my goodness, and you're doing such great things.
I'm trying to.
And I think a lot of it stems from your heart. Really pouring your heart into these kids, and when you reach out and you touch a life, it just like ripples. Like you told me, it's a ripple effect.
You know what? It's funny that you bring up the ripple effect because when I was laying in the hospital, there were so many people that stepped up for me and my family. A ton of people. And if it wasn't for them stepping up, I wouldn't be sitting here today. And again, just thinking about how can I pay it forward and thank all those people. That small investment, that small thank you in me created that much larger ripple effect. And that's what I hope that's going to happen with the kids is the investments that we're pouring into them. If one of them come back and do something great, that's, we've done our job.
Thank you so much, Van. This has been a pleasure sitting here talking with you. And we're going to come back and we're going to talk about your personal story a little bit more because you keep talking about my injury. And I want the world to know about how you overcame the odds and where you are and what you are doing now.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's talk with Maisha. We'll be back. For all your pharmacy needs and prescriptions, call Pharmacy Solutions, LLC, the community pharmacy the mayor honored for its commitment in providing the community with affordable prescriptions. Pharmacy Solutions takes your health very personally with patient consultation and a patient assistance program for the uninsured and those with specialty drug needs. To learn more about the program and how to transfer your prescriptions to Pharmacy Solutions, LLC, call them today because they breathe life back into our community.
Marzi is a company founded in Italy. That style and flair that the Italians bring to everything they do. We can produce bikes that have character, we can produce bikes that are made by hand, and we can produce a riding experience that is second to none. These bikes are a blend of new and old. The experience we want people to have on the bike is a modern experience. The modern Marzi brand is about innovation. It's about looking forward, not backwards. It's about creating a unique experience and a unique connection between the rider and the bike.
Wendell Oliver Scott was an American stock car racing driver. He was the first African-American driver in NASCAR and the first African-American to win a race in the Grand National Series, NASCAR's highest level. Scott was born in Danville, Virginia, and from a boyhood, he wanted to be his own boss. He learned auto mechanics from his father, who worked as an auto mechanic for two well-to-do white families. As a child growing up, Scott was known as a daredevil for anything that had wheels. Scott was around 30 years old when he was sitting in the bleachers of local speedways watching white men race. Up to then, he had lived his whole life under the rigid rules of segregation. In 1950, he made his first attempt to enter a NASCAR-sponsored race. Because he had light skin, officials didn't recognize that he was black. But when he went to purchase the safety belt, they'd asked him to buy so he could drive. His race was recognized, and he was told that he couldn't participate. Of course, no reason was given. In 1954, he was accepted into the NASCAR Modified Division. In those years, he honed his driving skills and began winning races. He ended up winning around 127 races in these lower divisions. In 1961, Scott debuted in the Grand National, now known as the Winston Cup, at the Spartanburg Fairgrounds in South Carolina. In the beginning of his Grand National career, he faced racism from officials, drivers, and crowds. Drivers of races would try to force him off the track. Inspectors would demand enormous repairs like fixing chip paint before letting him race. He was once disqualified from a race because his crew was racially mixed. Sometimes he was only allowed to have his wife in the pit to help him during a race. Crowds would often jeer at him, but Scott persisted. And he finished in the top 10 5 times in 1961. Even skilled drivers can be involved in accidents, and Scott had his fair share. Sometimes he was able to fix the car and get back on the track to finish the race, and sometimes even the best attempts failed. In 1973, he was involved in a multiple car pileup in Alabama. The resulting injuries nearly killed him. He survived the crash despite fracturing his ribs, pelvis, both knees, and one of his legs. He also needed 60 stitches to close up a wound in his arm. The wreck forced Scott to retire. Scott kept racing until 1973 and died in 1990. Till this day, no other African American has won a top NASCAR race, and very few African American drivers have gotten behind the wheel. But Scott's accomplishment has opened the doors for many others, and in January of 2015, Wendell Scott, among 5 others, was inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. It has been 52 years since Scott won his NASCAR race at the Speedway Park in Jacksonville, Florida. And now he's rewarded for being a tough driver and a trailblazer. Wendell Scott fulfilled his destiny, and we are all proud to say that he's the first African American to be inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. And these words were spoken by Wendell Scott's son, Wendell Scott Jr. And that's why we are proud to celebrate this African American legend here on the Talk Lounge in 5.
I'm Dr. Annie at Right Weight Center, where we help you get to your right weight, but at a much lower cost.
The other weight loss companies charge hundreds of dollars with long-term contracts for similar products we all use.
For years, Right Weight has been helping thousands of people lose weight, including me. Call and schedule a free evaluation.
When quality counts, choose Comfort Temp Heating and Cooling. Right now, take $250 off any new complete heating or AC system, with huge BGE rebates available on select systems. All work is guaranteed. Call Comfort Temp Heating and Cooling today for your free estimate.
Welcome back to That's the Reality of It. Thanks for tuning in again this morning with me and
Kanika,
the great Kanika. And this gentleman in between us is Mr. Tom Saunders, and he's going to be giving us a tour of the Great Blacks and Wax Museum, correct?
That's correct.
And we're going to start off with the founder?
Yeah, we're going to start off with Carter G. Woodson, who created Negro History Week, which has now evolved to Black History Month. Okay, this is Carter G. Woodson. Now, Carter G. Woodson was 22 years old when he completed high school, but he definitely wasn't slow. You know, schooling was interrupted because of poverty, but by 1912, he had earned a PhD from Harvard University. And it was in 1915 that he founded the Association for the Study of Black Life and History. And so we're celebrating 100 years of that organization this Black History Month. And that is the nationwide theme for Black history. Carter G. Woodson was the one who initiated Negro History Week in 1926, and that has now evolved to the present Black History Month that we celebrate. Okay, come on now. And look at this big bale of cotton.
No, that's a lot of work.
And if you've never picked cotton before. This is what cotton looks like in the field.
Wow.
That's cotton from Littleton, North Carolina. And it's a very seedy cotton. So when Eli Whitney came up with his invention, which was the cotton gin, and that extracts the seeds from the cotton, no one had invented a cotton picking machine yet.
Okay, what are we seeing right here?
So here we're seeing an example of a forced feeding. Because the enslaved Africans were naturally depressed. They were stolen from their land, stolen from their families, never to see them again. And one of the signs of depression is to lose your appetite. Then some of them refused to eat as a sign of protest.
Right.
But if they did that, they had a contraption. They could put it in front of their mouth, break their front teeth out, and this funnel would be forced into their esophagus, and this was a forced meal. That's mush in the bowl. It's made of lard, cornmeal, and water.
Oh, goodness.
And then another way to control people is to whip them. Look at Gordon. This is a famous picture.
Famous picture, yes.
And so Gordon was whipped with the cat of 9 tails. And after being whipped, salt was rubbed into his wounds. And so, Africans naturally keloid. Frederick Douglass's back looked like that, and so did Harriet Tubman.
Now, what about the chains around the slave's neck and waist?
This is a contraption that was used on runaways. Cast iron collar, cast iron belt, and there's a rod that runs down his back connecting the two, making it impossible for him to run anymore.
Oh my goodness.
And he can't bend over, so he's in
heavy.
constant discomfort, very heavy. And when he moves, the bells ring. Not only do the bells make it easy for you to find him, but really the bells are there to set an example out of him. When the other enslaved Africans would hear the bells, that would draw attention to them. Everything they did to the enslaved Africans, they did publicly, because they've always ruled the blacks through fear and intimidation.
So are you saying that whole rod is going down the
This is
back?
going down his back. This
So
is all
where
one.
the bells are?
This is all one piece.
Where the bells are?
Yes. This
All
is
the way
all
down
one
his back?
piece, all the way down his back.
And what about the guy behind you? Because his mask,
Okay, this
he looks
is
like, Jason. I mean, like, you
this
can't
is
even
the
breathe in
infamous iron mask. Once they would place this mask over their heads, they could neither eat nor drink. And the mask is mounted to the wall, so he's suspended by his head. Look at his feet, they're 1/4 of an inch off of the ground. And he too has on a heavy cast iron belt, and the heavy weight pulls at his torso. So he could do one of two things. He could submit to be a slave, or he could die. Okay, before we go into slave ship, notice the nets around the boat. The nets were placed there to keep them from jumping overboard. Now, if someone became ill for fear that they would contaminate the cargo, they would be thrown overboard. And so many Africans went overboard until sharks began to follow the slave ships for their meals. And it's said today that sharks still swim in the pattern of the Middle Passage. When we come out, look on the other side, you'll see the sharks in the water.
So if I'm correct, it's like this young lady is getting branded. Like
Branded, right. Right, the slave trade was so lucrative that everybody participated. Not only Europeans, but African kings and queens as well, with the exception of Queen Anne and Zinga. To be a part of the world economy, Africans sold other Africans, they sold their prisoners. So the slave captures would go into the interior and bring the people back to the coast. There on the coast is where they had holding pens. But prior to going into a holding pen, the people were stripped naked and inspected for deformities and for disease. Anyone with bad teeth would be killed. But once you passed inspection, you received a brand just like any other livestock. In case you got mixed up in the pens, you would know what company they belonged to. And you want to focus on this right here.
William, can you imagine?
No.
Okay, most of the slaves would have been on cargo ships like this, except the shells would have went the whole length of the ship. But this is to show you how closely packed the people were. If they were laying this way, heads this close, and if they were laying the other way, feet this close together. Now, in one of the journals that the Martins retrieved from Liverpool, it stated that during a particular journey, this man recorded that he witnessed a woman pull a nail out of the boat. She stuck it into the head of the woman next to her and killed her. because that's so she could have breathing space. You know, once somebody died next to you, they would throw them overboard. And so that gave her some relief. And then the other thing is, they were of different nationalities, because on purpose they would lay an Igbo next to a Yoruba, Hausa, or some other nationality so that they couldn't communicate. And that reduced the chance of rebellion. But with these people being chained like this, the slave ship was filthy. That meant that they had to urinate, defecate, and eat all in this same position. A slave ship smelled so bad, you could smell it 5 miles away on the open sea. And here in Baltimore, they wouldn't let the ships dock in the harbor. They stayed out in the Patapsco River, and small boats would go in and bring a few in at a time so you could clean them up. So that means that disease and sickness was very prevalent on the slave ship. And if you look down here, you'll see the rats gnawing on the dead body. And look how malnourished this little boy is. Look how malnourished he is because of the filthy conditions. And this man has gone blind.
So how many people do you was actually killed?
Every book I've read, you get a different number, from 1 million to 100 million. So I'm not sure.
Okay, that was an experience.
Oh, very much so.
And we still have a lot to see.
That's right.
Still have a lot to see. We're just getting started. So next week, we're going to have part 2 of the Great Blacks in Wax tour, so you can get a feel of the great history. See, I'm kind of more familiar with it because you're young.
Well, it's not so much that, but I think, a lot of times people only know about certain names in history. So it's great to be able to come to a museum and hear and see and read and learn about those historians that we maybe have never even uncovered because we didn't talk about it in school. So.
Or even seen. And here you can actually see them almost real life. Okay? So next week, you got to tune into to get some more history-making tour of the Great Blacks in Wax Museum here in Baltimore.
If you're looking for a primary care doctor that truly puts patients first, then call Windsor Medical Center, where you'll get excellent care from award-winning Dr. Nkwon Yu. Windsor Medical Center is equipped to diagnose many health issues, including heart, lungs, and diabetes.
We really care about you at the Windsor Medical Center.
Call 410-265-7742.
Would you like to make $300 to over $3,000 a week on your own time? Then call Odyssey Production and join their marketing team by selling TV advertisements. And you can get paid each day. For more information, go to the employment section on our website or call 443-394-7333.
Fantastic show, fantastic segment. You're an awesome young lady.
Awesome recognizes awesome, right?
That's what I'm talking about.
That's what I'm talking about.
So, if God gives you another day, that's another opportunity to do the right thing. Don't blow that opportunity.
Be blessed.
Put God first, because through Him, all things are possible. See you next week.